the purposeful marketing, what we created to try and be able to combat this. So this is our method, okay? The first part really is about creating a foundation and understanding and focusing on your brand, your audience, your data, and your marketing to sales operation, okay? One of the things that we do as a culmination is on that marketing to sales day, everything kind of comes together and we create these marketing to sales maps. And we recognize that this is how we're going to attract, connect, close, and delight the target audience that we have. But to get there, there's always obstacles. It's a new logo, it's a new CRM, it's a new website. There's always an obstacle, a few obstacles, and hopefully it's not too intense. But you got to knock those things out because this is where you want to be. You want to be executing your marketing to sales map and knowing exactly how you're attracting, connecting, closing, and delighting your prospects and customers. And I'll show you how we make it a little bit easier for companies, because what we make them do is we make them make decisions, foundational decisions, and they have to stick to them, okay? So on the brand side, it's really three different areas. First is a communication. Everybody needs to know the why, how, and what of how you conduct business. Why do we exist? How do we do what we do? What it is that we're doing. Most people know the what, and the how, you really got to dig in to the why. We also want to be able to figure out how we communicate our offering in 7 words or less and really focus that on the customer. How are we helping the customer? They're the hero, we're Yoda. What are we doing for them? And lastly, we're going to create our value propositions. And one thing that we do that's really different when it comes to our strategies, every piece of creative that we come up with is external. We don't have like internal positioning statements or internal value propositions. If we write it down, it's going to go on the website, it's going to go in marketing materials. Next, we make sure that the visuals really fulfill the brand promise. You know, I've seen companies, especially in the manufacturing space, they make the best products, the highest quality, the best steel, all that stuff, and you go to their website and it looks like it was built in 1997. And you know, you're like, well, you're not quality. You don't really invest in quality. It's not everything that you do. So you got to make sure that the visuals fulfill your brand promise. And it just needs to work cohesively. Everything needs to sound the same, look the same, be really, really consistent. I think that a lot of times with marketing, what we end up doing is our glass half empty is, oh gosh, we keep doing the same stuff over and over again, when we should be listening to our glass half full, which is, this is a consistent message that's going to take a few times to resonate with people. The last section on brand, when it comes to brands, is creating these 2 campaigns. Our first one is an attract campaign, and we create a leading message. We're going to talk a lot about leadership. We call it a leadership message. Aramis has been nice enough to let me share with you guys some of the work that we did when we brought his company through the Purposeful Marketing Method. And the idea with the leadership message kind of goes back to that influence and that thought leadership of what are we doing to attract our target audience through thought leadership. What are we saying that's different than everybody else? How are we doing this? And then the second campaign we help people do is something we call a vision pitch, where we essentially walk, you know, it's that time once you've connected with a prospect and they seem like they're you know, a qualified lead and you want to turn them into a customer. It's really creating this path for them so they can see what their success story would look like if they become your customer. And here's just an example of a leadership message that we did for Aramis's company. They're an IT company, and one of the things that Aramis, you know, we started by going over all the problems that their customers face, and you know, a lot of the stuff that you often see: compliance issues, just not understanding things, security threats always. And then we started going to the emotions to consider, and we started at that fear of security threat because that's the easiest thing. Hey, Sony got hacked. How can it not be you? You know, that's where your mind goes first. But what we really found as we dug deeper, Aramis and his team, was that there's a lot of confusion, and there's also a lot of like curiousness about the possibilities of what IT can even do. And you know, we recognize that our point of view is that there's just this new model of security where we live in a subscription culture, so we are going to figure out how you know, we're going to get people to rent things instead of buy them. And we're going to make sure that they understand that through this automation, we can save them money. And it kind of clicked that IT is typically, you know, what? Oh, call the guys, the computers are broken. And what Aramis and his team realized, like, we don't want to do that. What we want to do is we want to help people through the lens of business development be able to grow their operation and streamline what they're doing and save money on employees by automating things with IT. And we're only going to be able to do that by showcasing to them how that can be done and what possibilities exist. And then, so, our leadership message was the IT is business development, welcome to 2019. And then we're disseminating the message through an ebook. He's building out a presentation right now that I think is set for to be able to go out in the fall. And then landing pages and scripts so that other people in the organization can understand exactly what this leadership message is. Now, on the audience side, there's two things that we think companies really need to do. And the first thing is figuring out what we call target personas. You may have heard of buyer personas, which is like your direct customer. But I know in B2B, especially professional services, one of the more popular types of marketing is to referrals. And so instead of being like, well, we have referral personas and buyer personas, like, all right, these are your target audience. We'll just call them target personas. And so what we do is we kind of go through all the different target personas and identify different obstacles that these people are going through, their desires, their tendencies, and then just their general demographic. And then the next thing that we do is we create something we call the customer promise. And this is kind of going back to that point of view, figuring out who can we really help, what are our shared beliefs, and what the people that we're focused on, what do they really want? And on the flip side of that, it's who is the great customer that is not our great customer? And this is really hard for businesses to do. Who can you proverbially break up with and turn away from? And I'm going to talk a lot about this, so I just want to make this clear. I'm not saying fire customers, okay? If you got good customers, that's that maybe aren't they're a little bit more about who you used to be versus where you're going. Don't just get rid of them. That's foolish. What I'm saying is, instead of thinking, okay, I'm for everybody and I can do this, figure out this is exactly the kind of person that I want. And this is the kind of person I don't want. And if this person that I don't want brings something up in a discovery meeting that I can recognize immediately isn't right for them, I'm going to speak up and say, oh, you know what? I don't think we're the best company that can help you for that. Maybe X, Y, and Z can do that. But it's tough for people to do that because, especially in industries even like ours, where everybody can use some sort of service that we provide. We want to be for everybody, but at the end of the day, that's how we get lost in the shuffle. So, one of the things that David and I recognized years ago was that we don't really want to work with startups. We don't want to work with tech startups, which is different from Pankaj, who works directly with startups. And because every startup has a little bit of money to start. They all need trademarks. But when they come to us, it's all about big promises, right? We're going to do this. And then 5 years from now, we're going to go public. And if you could just give me a little break now, it's going to be big. And everyone thinks that they're going to be the next Facebook. And at some point, we just recognize, like, all right, like I don't want to have to keep weeding these guys out. I want to work with more established companies who just kind of need to be modernized. And so we had to break up with them in our mind. So this is an example of a target persona that we build out. And this is one of Aramis's personas. His name's Construction Carl. So based on a lot of the hardware stuff that these guys do as an IT company, when they work with a few different construction companies now, these people are constantly building new developments, right? So they constantly need their services. They need to have all the security cameras and the low voltage, all that kind of stuff brought together. But when we started going through all of this, I'm not going to go through each thing, but I highlighted here, how do they find vendors? Aramis is like, man, it's like all referral. It's a good old boy network. Like these guys aren't searching for an IT company. It's who they know. And so we'll show you. I have their marketing to sales map in a little bit. How we were like, okay, well that's got to be a very account-based marketing focus. That's got to be completely different from okay, let's run ads on Facebook or run ads on Google. And going through this exercise, you'll realize that these different persona types, these different types of customers that exist within your orbit, need to be talked to and gone after in different ways. So next up, we have the data. One of the things on data we feel like is really important are what we call most important metrics. This is really similar to the scorecard in EOS for anyone who's familiar with the entrepreneurial operating system. And it's really kind of determining the 7 to 13 most important metrics to your company's growth. And with that, you have to identify what a weekly goal is for each of those. And it needs to be very simple and it needs to be consistent, because if you're looking at this stuff weekly, then your performance and these data points are only then going to dictate behavior, okay? And the idea is to get them so that you're looking at the data consistently and then making different changes so that you're hitting the goals that you're wanting to. Lastly, we work with companies on their budget. We like to do kind of an audit of what's going on. Different companies are different in this. Some people are very open and like Aramis was, and it's honestly it's much easier like that. But at the end of the day, if we can just understand what they need to spend on a monthly basis for their growth, then we can at least work with that, because we need to know those numbers. You're going to see in a second when we get to the marketing to sales map, we got to be very pragmatic with everything that we do. If we're going to try and create these different roadmaps of how we're going to attract, connect, close, and delight prospects and customers, we need to know how much we can spend on that so that we can actually do it tangibly and we don't just try and build Camelot. So this is just an example of a scorecard. This is Aramis's company, construction leads, site traffic, different proposal conversion-based stuff that's specific to his company, and then a couple accountability things down there: marketing meetings held, management meetings held, company promotional emails sent. And so when you start building all of those things, everything culminates to these marketing to sales maps. And all these do is go through each persona and outline how we're going to attract, connect, close, and delight them. And then we're also going to identify, the purpose, role, or function of each, and we're going to also identify the person who's in charge and any obstacles that might be in the way. So you'll see here on the left we have the attract, connect, close, delight, the purpose, role, or function, the success metrics that we're looking at, the responsible party, and then we identify any obstacles, going back to that idea of that the obstacle sprint, seeing where we might have some hurdles in getting to the promised land. Because this is what the promised land looks like. This is an inbound marketing to sales map here. And so what you'll see is there's an investment in search engine optimization. This is for a target persona in the sign industry. So we just call them sign industry Sam. And they want to do a custom Facebook ads to an email list that they had of the sign industry, and then they want to create another custom audience by prospecting a list that on LinkedIn. And one of the important parts of purpose, role, or function is because you can kind of read those and go, okay, well, duh, right? The custom Facebook audience, we want inbound leads through targeting a different demographic. But the idea is if we're not getting the form fills that we want through that action, we know the purpose, we know what we're trying to do, maybe the action needs to change. Maybe instead of Facebook ads, we should be using Instagram ads. Maybe we should change up how we're doing these things. And so, we created these different ways for people to be able to reach this persona. And then we had, okay, what do we need to do to get them to connect? We got to build a landing page with a strong CTA. We need to support what we're doing with an infographic that they can download. We want to have a testimonial video. We don't have that yet, though. We got to put that on the obstacle list. And then, we want to make sure that if they don't fill out a form, they start seeing retargeting ads. And that's what we're going to invest in, getting this persona to connect with us. And then we create this system for how we're going to get to close. First, we have the 15-minute qualifying meeting, then a 90-minute meeting where we have what we call our vision pitch, and then we'll do some email automation, personal follow-ups. Hopefully we get the customer, delight them. We'll just delight them through our newsletter and monthly check-in calls. And then this is one that we did for Construction Carl, which is much more of that account-based marketing, where we recognize, okay, we got to start attending construction-focused events, preferably where Aramis can be speaking and get in front of people. To get into these worlds, we might need to donate to industry and charity events that they're involved in. And we need to work with our current Construction Carls to understand the industry better, which I believe, Aramis, you guys did. You started, and that's kind of how you figured out the right associations to start being able to present to. And then, to get that connection, we can, showcase some value with the donation. We can schedule introduction meetings after we've proven our credibility in these speaking events. And then from there, your typical, lunch, guided meeting, proposal, all that good stuff. And then we decided, to delight this guy, he's got to get a holiday basket. Every year we're going to take him out for lunch. We're going to give them some Dodger tickets once a year. And then quarterly or annually, somebody's going to go in there and really talk about all the work that we've been doing and really show them how much that we care. And once all that happens, you've got all of those obstacles that you've seen over here, and you aggregate those, and then you got to hit the ground running. And the way that we try and organize it is give yourself 90 days. Because if it's 90 days, then those are real obstacles that you can knock out. Anything more than that is a little bit more of a barrier. So try and do this in a pragmatic way where it's not going to take you 3 months to build this, the greatest new website to be able to get to marketing the way that you want. You want to try and be able to move a little bit quicker than that. And then, of course, from there, just hitting up these M2S maps. This is kind of the bread and butter. It's the follow through, right? We have the focus, and now it's the follow through. You got to do all the work, make sure that you're hitting your goals and attracting, connecting, closing, and delighting. You're going to be tracking all of the work. So if you're not hitting the goals, how are you going to be changing the behavior? You're going to be able to figure all that out as you're going through everything.